Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm audible and kindly respond in the chat box whether I'm audible or not. Yes, I'm audible. So, yes. Okay. Okay, I'm audible, right? So, actually, we discussed a few concepts. We discussed about states and we discussed the concept of props. But suddenly, we had a team meeting. That is the reason we quit that very quickly in yesterday's session. Whatever it may be, I would like to open that same code and I would like to repeat whatever we discussed. Um, yes. So yes, thank you for sharing this. And I think most of the most of the concepts are missed in the React.js. So what we have to do here? So we already discussed about these concepts: project directory and overview. So we have to discuss Webpack and Babel. That is also one of the important concepts. I will discuss them uh, tomorrow or day after tomorrow because we have to discuss few more concepts because we already discussed the props concept in state and we need to work on it. So if you observe this, we already completed this. So functional components and class components. So we can call them as stateless components as well as for class components we can call stateful components. That means in the class components we can implement the state, but it's not possible in the function component. That is the reason functional components are also called as stateless components. Very similar to this, the class components are also called as stateful components. Okay, I didn't share my screen, right? Okay. Thank you. Yes, yes, fine. I just shared my screen, right? Thank you. So if you observe this here, so we have to discuss the two-way data binding, and similarly we have to discuss the one-way data binding. There is a small difference between these two. That is very important. So first of all, let me discuss what is one-way data binding and what is two-way data binding. After that, we will complete the props concept along with an example. So let me open the documentation. We already created a documentation is by creating a repository in GitHub. So let me open that repository, GitHub, and this 404 error. So we created a repository with the name of React-documentation. Yes, this is our documentation. I'd like to keep each and every information in it. So, all right. So first of all, we have to know what is a one-way data binding and what is a two-way data binding. So yes, that's fine. One-way data versus two-way data binding. So this is one of the important concepts, guys. So everyone need to focus on this. Before going to do this, before going to this topic, I would like to ask a question. So do you have any idea about MVC? MVC. Have you heard that word MVC? Durga also responded that this is called model view controller. Yes, yes, that's a model view controller. So MVC means model view controller. So what is the importance of it and why we need to use that? No sir, no sir. Most of the people responded that no idea. Yes. Okay, let me explain the concept. What is a model view controller actually? So this is one of the advanced approach for developing any kind of web applications, that is model view controller. So we have to know what is a model and what is a view and what is the controller. So if you observe this, we have three statements in it. The first one is model. So in this model, whatever the information that is related to databases or any kind of other kind of data storages, we will implement the functionalities of data storage or databases. So implementation for data storage or databases. Data storage or databases. So implementation for data storage or databases. That means we can retrieve the data from database, or we can get that information, or we can store the data into the database. So when we are going to work with the databases or data storage, we have to use the model. The functionalities will be implemented in this model, and these functionalities are executed by the controller. So this is implemented. Whatever the functionalities we are going to implement for the data storage or database retrieval, so we have to implement those functions in model. But we have to execute this model by using controller. So that is the difference. And we have to start with the sequence. So model, after that we have to use the view. So view means we can display that information. Whatever the data we are getting from the database, we have to display that data in the front end part. So yes, so this is for rendering data on web document or web page. So this is for rendering the data on web page or web document. So we can simply say that. And the final one is control. So we already discussed. So whatever the functionalities are implemented in the model part, that will be executed by this controller. If you want to display that information in the view part, that is also possible by this controller. Controller will send the data to the view part, and we can see that information in the web document. So controller executes the functionalities. So controller executes the functionalities. That's fine. So model is for implementing the functions for data storage or databases. That means we can get the data by using selection statements or other stuff. So similarly, we can store the data, data retrieval, data removal, or getting data from the database. These kind of functionalities will be developed in the model part. The view is for representing the data on the web document or web page in the front end part. Whereas controller, this is for executing the functionalities. Here we are implementing the functionalities, but when we are going to execute them, so we have to use controllers. So controller executes the functions or functionalities. Okay. So now we have to know what is the difference between one-way data binding or two-way data binding. So in the React is one-way data binding. So one-way data binding means we can get the data from model to view part. So model to view part, that is one-way data binding. So that means we can display the data from any other external sources. So this is called one-way data binding. What is the two-way data binding? For example, here we used to have model to view and view to model, the direction, that is two-way data binding. So we have to get information from the model to view and similarly view to model. So this is the difference. This is the two-way data binding, but in React we have one-way data binding. So we have model to view or view to model. That's it. Two-way data binding means we can communicate with the model as well as the view. Alright, so that means React is for displaying the data. So React is for displaying that information. That's it. So we need not to send data to any kind of model. but we can use some kind of APIs to send that. Basically, this is one-way data binding. Yeah, increase font size. Okay. I hope it's clear, right? Is that clear, everyone? Okay, it's all clear up to now, right? So yes, I think the attendance count decreases day by day because initial stages we are able to see 50 as the count here. But yes, whatever it may be, so you have to understand each and every concept which we are developing. Okay, so the next concept. So we already discussed the differences between the two-way data binding and one-way data binding. It's clear, right? So React is for one-way data binding. That is the reason React is more performant. So parent to child communication, we already discussed about this. So we used different kinds of components in app.js. We imported that and we used them. And also discussed states in React, working with props. Now it's time to working with the props concept. And we also discussed handling events. So similarly, we also discussed the binding data. Binding means we can represent the data in the format of so yes, we used binding braces, right, for representing the data, and lists and keys. So we have to discuss about this. So we already discussed how we are going to use lists, but we got an error yesterday, so we will resolve that here. So yes, we have this. We already implemented this function, right? So what is that? So we used two collections here, two collections. But yes, so we need to use props concept. That means here we are using, no, this is not necessary. I would like to remove this. So we already created a component with the name of header.js and we imported that in app.js. That's fine up to now. So we just imported the header from header, and so we used two arrays here. Very similar to this. Now it's time to get the data from this arrays, and we have to pass the data to header.js. So first of all, what we have to do, we have to use the header element. So again, I'm going to tell this because this is one of the important concepts, how we are going to pass the parameters or pass the data from one component to another component. So I'm going to use header HEADER, right? So this is a self-closing tag because when we are not using any kind of information between the tags, it's better to use self-closing tag. That is the reason I used the self-closing tag here. Okay, very similar to this, when we are going to pass the data, so we have to use the keys as well as the values. So that is name, I just used name, and I'm going to use my name. And for role, I'm going to use the role. So full stack developer. Clear. So now we have to implement this information in the header part. So that is, so here we already implemented. So we used props here, whatever data we are getting from. So this is the header information. So we just included that header part here. So this is the header, and we included that header in app.js. That's fine. So from app.js, we are passing the data to the header because app is the parent and header is the child here. So in the header part we used props, and here we used props.name and props.role. So because we are getting information in the format of object, so here these are the key value pair. So this is also a key value pair. So we can simply call this as entries. So we have to use entries in the format of objects. That is the reason we used props.name and props.role. So when we are going to call this props.name, then this name attribute will be called. Similarly, when we are going to call the role, this role will be called. So whatever it may be, whatever the data we are passing from this app.js component, that will be available in this parameter, that is props. You can declare any variable instead of props. For better understanding, I used props as the keyword here. So props and props.name and props.role. So this is all about how we are going to pass the data from one component to another component, but it's time to pass this data. So let me execute this output first. So yes, this is already executed. So use state is defined but never used. Data is assigned a value but never used. Rows data is assigned a value but never used. Okay, we will use them. So let me save this and execute in the browser. This is not running anywhere, but okay, no problem. I'm going to use localhost 3000. This is the URL for running the React project, right? So I'm going to use this. So yes, here we are able to see that Hanuman working as a full stack developer. So we are able to see this information. If you observe this information is executing from header part. We are passing data from app.js to header, like this. And similarly, I'm going to use this data. I'm going to pass the collection data. So for that we have to use an iteration statement. So I would like to remove this, and I would like to use a map function. So whenever we are going to use a JavaScript function artist, we have to use braces. This is called binding statement. Here I'm going to use data.map function. So map is the function, and this is also called as higher order function. So what is the higher order function? Can anybody respond in the chat box? What is the higher order function? What is the higher order function? Can anybody respond in the chat box? So we already discussed about higher order functions in we were discussing with the JavaScript concept. So higher order function is nothing but a function that accepts another function as an argument. That is called as higher order function. It means function which have another function as a yes. That's fine. A function as an argument or returns a function. Yes. That is also a higher order function. Now tell me, what is a higher order component? So we discussed higher order function, but what about the higher order component? So we discussed higher order function, that is a function that accepts another function as an argument. So that is higher order function. Now I'm asking, what is a higher order component? What is a higher order component? Can anybody respond? Yes, Durga Vasu responded. Higher order component is like a function that takes a component and returns a new component. Yes, absolutely right. So the component which accepts another component as an argument, that is called as higher order component. So we know the difference, right? Higher order functions or higher order components are completely different. But when we are going to implement a function in another function as an argument, that is called as higher order function. Similarly, when a component accepts another component as an argument, that is called as higher order component. So we will discuss about them tomorrow. But first of all, we have to know how we are going to iterate all the values from the array, and we have to pass the data to the another component by using props concept. So here I'm going to use data.map function. So we have to pass two parameters in it. So I'm going to pass the value and comma index. So we know the first one is value and the second one is index. So I'm going to use the function because this is the map function, right? So I'm going to use the header here, header. So we should not implement any kind of information between these tags, so it's better to use a self-closing tag. Okay, so I'm going to pass the parameters. So the first one is key. I'm going to use name as a key, and I'm going to pass the data, that is data of. So here this is very important, guys. So we have to pass the index value or the position of the array. So I'm going to use index because value is completely different for these two collections. So that is the reason I'm using index value. So by using index value, we can iterate these two collections. Alright, so I'm going to use role, and in the role we have to use data of index again. So this is index, but this is not data. This is roles data. So this is all about the roles data. So roles data of index, because we used two kinds of collections. The first one is data, and second one is roles data. So roles, yes, roles data. So we are using two collections, data and roles data. So we are iterating based on the index value here. So we are not using any kind of value. So yes, let me execute this once in the browser. Just refresh. So we are not able to get this because we didn't return any kind of value here. So I'm going to use a return statement and execute in the browser. Yes, now we are able to see that. Durga working as a software engineer, Raja working as testing engineer, Chetan working as a web developer, Upendra working as app developer, and Vamsi working as iOS developer. So we just used a map function along with index value. But when we are going to use the console.log statement, we will get an error or warning. So what is that warning? We should implement the, yes, here if you observe this warning, each child in a list should have a unique key prop. So we are going to use multiple items here. Alright, so we are going to implement multiple items. We are going to return multiple items from here. Whenever we are going to use a map function for iterating multiple items, so we have to use a uniqueness. We have to provide the uniqueness for each and every item. So that is the reason we have to use a key prop. So I'm going to use a key prop here. So we already used the header. In that I'm going to use a key prop. So key equals to, I'm going to use a value. So we already have the value here. So I'm going to use the value. Alright, so this is for uniqueness. So similarly, this value is calling. This value is nothing but the items value here. Durga, Raja, Chetan, Upendra, Vamsi. These are the values here. So whenever we are going to use the value, that must be unique. That should be unique. So let me save this and execute. Refresh. Yes, now the warning gone. So we don't have any kind of warning now. So similarly, when we are going to use another name, for example, instead of Raja, I'm going to use Durga again. So we have to provide the uniqueness for the list. Here we used a key prop, that is value, that's fine. So this value is nothing but Durga again, Chetan, Upendra, Vamsi. Whenever we are going to use this value or we are going to iterate this value, that value iterates number of elements we are having in the array. So this value holds each and every value of it. So for example, the first iteration, it holds this value. For second iteration, it holds again this value. For third iteration, it holds the Chetan, and similarly continues like this. But here we have to provide the uniqueness for the keys. Here we use the key as value, but Durga is repeated. So there is no uniqueness for this. So let me execute this. And if you observe this, there is warning. So encounter two children with the same key, Durga. keys should be unique so that components maintain their identity across updates. Non-unique keys may cause children to be duplicated and are omitted. The behavior is unsupported and could not change the future versions. So that is the reason we have to use the unique values. When we are going to use multiple values with the same name, that is not suggested here. So we have to provide the uniqueness. So when we are going to index, when we are going to use index, that's fine because all the elements are having different kinds of indexes. So even this Durga is having 0 as the index, this Durga is having 1 as the index, Chetan is also having 2 as the index, and similarly the index values are completely different from every element. So it's better to use index value for the key prop. So that is the reason I used index value for this key prop. So we know why we should not use value, because whenever we are going to use the value, that means value may be repeated. By using value, we may face some kind of errors as a key prop. So that is the reason it's better to use index value. So whenever we are going to use the index value, that takes the index value and applies the key prop. That means we can provide the uniqueness of the element. So let me execute this in the browser, just refresh, and we don't have any kind of warnings here. So this is how we are going to use the props in React. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear, everyone? Yes, it's clear. And what about others? What about others? Explain once again. It's clear, but Amarnath asked me to explain this procedure again. So we just used the collections and we iterated all the values and we passed the data from one component to another component. So we are passing data from app.js to header.js. So that is the reason we used header component here. So from app.js, we are passing information to the header.js. In header.js, we are executing that by using this props.name and props.role. So if you observe this, we are getting information by using this map function. I just used a map function for iterating all the items in the collections. Now we are able to iterate all of them. So here what I'm doing, so I'm going to pass two parameters, that is, yes, those are value and index. Value is nothing but it calls each and every element of the collection. It calls each and every element of the collection. Index means it calls the positions of the collection. So we used header name equals to data of index. So we used data of I, that is index. So when we are going to use data of index, that means it starts from 0. So data of 0. So data.0, that means Durga will be displayed. After that, data of 1, Durga will be displayed again. After that, data of 2, that means Chetan will be displayed. After that, data of 3, that means Upendra displayed, and data of 4, that means Vamsi will be displayed. Very similar to this, we are using role and roles data. So we are using this collection and we are using index value of it. So that means roles data of 0, that is software engineer. Roles data of 1, that is testing engineer. Roles data.2, that is web developer. Roles data.4, that is app developer. And finally roles data.5, that is iOS developer. This is, I think, index of 4. So whatever it may be, so we are able to see all the data like this. Now we are passing this data, to header component. So what is there in header component? We are returning the value. So we used props. So whatever the parameter here we are using, the parameter contains the props values, whatever the data we are getting from the app.js or the parent component. Similarly, we are displaying that information by using this props, it is props, and we have a key, right? So that is name. So that is the reason we used props.name and working as props.role, because the second attribute is role only. So role equals to roles data of index. So now this is the role. Very similar to this, when we are going to use map function, we have to provide the uniqueness for the items or the elements. So that is the reason I used key equals to index. Index means each and every value must have an index. So when we are going to use key as an index, that means, so it will be starting from here. First time the key value is 0, second time the key value will be 1, third time 2, fourth time 3, and final time that is 5, not 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, this is 4. So 0 to 4 index value. So we are using the index values here for key prop. Key prop is nothing but providing the uniqueness to the element. So here we are able to access that information by using props.name and props.role. This is data and this is roles data. We are passing name that equals to data of index and role rows data of index. Alright, so is that clear now? Is that clear now? Yes, it's clear. So it's clear up to now, right? Okay. So now you have to do a task here. So the task is, whenever we are going to, no, we will continue. I will give you task later because we need to complete another topic. So based on that only we can complete the task. So let me open the documentation, that is syllabus. Yes, we discussed lists and keys. So we need to discuss the forms, and we also discussed styles and style sheets. All right. So now it's time to discuss the concept of forms. That's fine. After that, we need to discuss. Yeah, we already discussed this counter example, and we discussed the hooks concept, but we didn't discuss the router. Okay. So let me check it out once again. Binding data. Okay, so now it's time to discuss the concept of forms, right? So we have forms. Okay, so what will we be? It better to discuss the concept of forms. Okay, let me open the project. So I don't want to disturb the existing code. Instead of that, I'm going to create a new file. So I'm going to create new file. So in src folder, that is with the name of, I'm going to create form input.js. Alright, so we just created a new file, that is form input.js. So now we have to use import statement. Import React from React again. Alright, so here what we have to do, so we have to use the function, right? So this is a functional component. So we need to create a functional component. So I'm going to use export default. So we have to use function, right? So function, and what is the function name? So we used form input. So I'm going to use form input, and here we have to use the form. So first of all, we have to return the value. Right, so first of all, I'm going to use a fragment. So in between, I'm going to use the form. So I'm going to display sample content, that is by using h2 sample content, and I'm going to use this, that is form input.js. Yes, I'm going to use this in header.js. So what is that? Form input.js. Form input. So we have to import this also. Import, what is that? So form input from is form input. All right. Let me save this. Yes, now it's time to execute. Refresh. Now this is the sample content. Now we are able to see this. So I'm going to delete all the stuff available in app.js first. So I would like to commit it. I would like to make a comment. So that's fine. And here also I'm going to comment it, and I'm going to use the header. All right. So let me save this, and now it's time to implement the form. So what is the error here? So data is not. Okay, let me refresh. What is the data? So we don't have any kind of errors. All right. So this is the form input, and here I'm going to implement a form. Now we're able to see that the form is working fine. This this component is working fine. So I'm going to use the form controls. In the form, I'm going to use input type equals to, the first one is text. After that, we need to use the break. No, we need not to use the break element. So we have to use self-closing tag. So I will show you why we need to use self-closing tag also. Why should not use any kind of two tags. First one is for opening and second one is closing. So I will explain. So I'm going to use input type equals to email, and I'm going to use the break tag again. Very similar. So we have these two fields. We are going to create a form. So this form is having only two fields. That is, one is for text and the second one is for email. Yes, that's fine. We're able to see that information here. So similarly, it's better to implement the placeholder. I'm going to use placeholder. So that equals to, so this is for name, right? So I'm going to use name as a placeholder here. And similarly, the second one. So copy this, copy, and the second one is email. So that is email. And save this. Now we're able to see the placeholders. So we are having two input elements. Those are name and email. So we have to apply the validation rules also. Okay, now it's clear, right? Now it's clear up to now. So we have to apply some kind of validations also. That is one of the important aspect here. So what I'm going to do here, so we have to use another statement or another package, that is form IK. So we have to use that package also for validation. So here in your syllabus, that is having, we have to discuss the concept of forms, but here there is no validation. So that is the reason I'm going to tell you how we are going to validate the data. So this is one of the important aspect or important topic in React.js. So for that we have a library. So we have to import it first. And first of all, let me check how to install that. So just I'm going to use form IK. This is one of the packages for React. I'm going to use form IK here. So I'm going to install it from npm. So it's better to use form IK React by using npm, right? Npm. Yes, form IK, and we are able to see npm documentation for this. And we have to install this package first. This is the form IK. This is the symbol for this. And but how we are going to implement installation procedure? That is very, very important. So we are not able to have information regarding installation. So but how we are going to use that? So this is one of the important aspect. Okay, no problem. We will type this again. Install. I think we need to have Bootstrap for installing this. So this is one of the packages from Bootstrap. That is the reason. So install form.ik in React. Okay. No. We are not able to get that. Okay, no problem. So we have to install Bootstrap. All right. So I'm going to combination. So we don't have case for specifically the package. Yes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to install Bootstrap along with the form.ik. So let me open the coding part. So this is the coding part. So here I'm going to install the package. So first of all, we have to close the server here. The server is running. When the server is going to run, so we are not able to install any kind of packages there. So first of all, we have to stop the server. We can stop the server by using Control plus C. So let me use Control plus C, and yes, the server gets stopped. All right. So here, what we have to do, so we have to install the package. So I'm going to use npm I, and here I'm going to use Bootstrap first. Bootstrap, and we have to use node-sas, and we have to use form.ik. So first of all, let me install this package. After successful installation, you can proceed with this. For that, I'm going to copy this data. So if it works fine, I will share this link. I will share this document. I will share this statement. So let me press enter. So npm I bootstrap node sans form.ik. Yes, yep. So this is one of the packages. It comes with the combination of Bootstrap. So when we're going to use validations, we have to use this package, form.ik. Yes, I think it's installing, right? So I would like to share the command so that you can install this. So by using this, we can implement the validations for the form. So now this package gets installed. So let me open the package.json from here. So package.json, and you can check whether the package installed or not here. Yes, we are able to see Bootstrap form.ik. Yes. So this is not form.ik. There is other pronunciation for this. So I'm going to paste. I'm going to paste the package. How we're going to install that. So I recommend you to package for validations. So previously we discussed how we are going to validate a form element by using regular expression. But here we are not using any kind of regular expression. We have few kinds of elements. You just install this package, and I will tell you how to implement the validations without using any kind of regular expressions. We already discussed how we are going to implement the form validation by using regular expression. We saw an example, that is a phone number validation, right? So now we are not using any kind of regular expressions, but we are using a package that is bootstrap nodes as form IK. So after completion of your installation procedure, just kindly respond in the chat box. Anil Yadav responded, install sir. So what about others? Done. Done. So install. Durga Vasu responded. What about others? So Fatima, no. Okay, install. So just install Fatima as quickly as possible. So I will wait for 2 more minutes for installation. So try to install as early as possible. Yes, completed. So yes, the installation process completed for uh, the package. So what we have to do, we have to create another file for accessing this. So I will tell you each and every step. So there is no file available. There is no file available. So we have to create a file with the name of style.scss. So yes, there is no file. So I'm going to create style.scss in src folder. So what is that? So there is styles.scss. So this is SAS file. I just created this SAS file, and here we have to implement, or we have to import the bootstrap. So I'm going to import by using import. So remember everyone, this is not a JavaScript file, this is a CSS file. CSS file. That is the reason we have to use @ symbol for importing. So I just used @ symbol and import. So what we have to do, so we have to use bootstrap. So bootstrap, where is the bootstrap? Let me look into that. So is there any bootstrap package? Okay. So yes, it's audible, right, Rajesh sir? It's audible. Okay, thank you, sir, Rajesh sir. And yes, we have to use Bootstrap. So Bootstrap, where is the Bootstrap available? We already installed it. So refresh. Make any Bootstrap. In package we have, but so just let me check this Bootstrap, right? So Bootstrap, right? Yes, Bootstrap install. This is the package, and we have SCSS. In SCSS we have bootstrap.spss, right? So what we have to do, we have to call the parent element by using tilde operator, and we have to use Bootstrap. Alright, so Bootstrap, and in SCSS, okay, so SCSS, and where is that? In SCSS, is there any? Yes, we have a file. Alright, so we need this. That is bootstrap.scss. Yes, this is available. We need this. So what we have to do, we have to use bootstrap.scss. Alright. So we need not to use SCSS. We can implement the bootstrap. That's enough. Bootstrap. BOOTSTRAP. Alright. So let me save this. And what we have to do, no, we have to apply styles, right? So we have to import the styles. So why we need to get this information? Okay. So we have a file that is styles.scss. Alright, so I'm going to use that here. Import. And I'm going to use what is that? So we have styles.scss, right? So I'm going to use dot slash and styles.scss. Right? So this is having bootstrap files in it. And save this. And what we have to do, we have to open the form input.js. Here we have two elements. Those are input type equals to text and input type equals to email. That's fine. First of all, I would like to apply the styles by using class name. So input type equals to text, and here I'm going to use the class name. Class name that equals to form control. So we have a form. We have a predefined class name that is form control. We have to use the form control here. So that is form control. We need not to use binding statement for this. So class name, that is form control, and I would like to execute a program in the browser. So let me refresh. Signed. Okay. So the server gets stopped. So I'm going to install this. I'm going to start the server. So npm space start. Okay, so we are getting error here. Let me recheck this. So what is that error? Module build failed. Form node modules SCS is loaded. Dist cjs.js error node SAS version is incompatible with 4.0.0. Okay. Node modules SCS is loaded. Dist and cjs.js node modules post CSS loader src. So SCSS style.css SCSC incompatible with 4.0.0. Error occurred during the build and cannot be dismissed. Okay, let me refresh again. Again we are getting error. So we just install this. We install all the stuff, right? So now let me open the coding part here. And this is the error. So Node SAS version 5.0.0 is incompatible with 4.0.0. So why we are getting this error? That is Node SAS version 5.0.0 is incompatible with 4.0.0. Everything fine? Yes, everything is fine here. So we don't have any kind of other packages, right? So form IK. So whatever it may be, we have to install the latest version, but this is incompatible with 4.0. Okay, so what we have to do, so I'm going to use the regular expression pattern because the form IK is not compatible with the versions, so we are getting versions problem. So I'm going to use the regular expression directly without using any kind of form IK package. I'm going to install the regular expression. So just tell me, you also getting same kind of error? Are you getting same kind of error? Yes. Okay. We used before, but we didn't get any kind of error before. So this is the first time we are facing this kind of error. Don't worry. So there is a version problem. There is not a problem in coding. So whatever it may be, it's better to use the regular expression directly. Okay, so I'm going to implement by using the direct regular expressions. I'm going to use the regular expressions here. So first of all, let me remove all the stuff. So whatever we did, so we just used this app.css, that is styles.scss. So I'm going to comment it and save this and execute. So refresh, and we have this data. So now it's time to validate this information. So for better understanding, yes, we have this name field and email field, right? So I'm going to apply the regular expression for name, because the email is having, we have to take much more time for email, because we have to use the number of sequence characters for implementing the email for a regular expression. So I'm going to implement the regular expression for name only. So name means we should not use any kind of digits in it. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to create an ID here, because we need to get that information, right? So I'm going to use an ID. So here, this is the ID, right? So I'm going to use ID, and I'm going to use a sample ID for this. So what will be given in this ID? So I'm going to pass sample ID, that is name only. I just used name only. We can get that information directly by using onChange. I'm going to use onChange event or onKeyUp. OnKeyUp. So K is capital, right? OnKeyUp, and I'm going to use the function, that is validate form. This is the function. Validate form is the function. So I'm going to implement the function here. So what is the function? That is validate form. I'm going to use function, and we have to use validate form. So here what we have to do, we have to pass the information regarding this input element. We have to use callbacks. I'm going to use parameter, that is item. I just used item as the parameter. So what we have to do, we have to use item again. So first of all, we have to display the information which we are getting from when we are going to enter any kind of value in it. So I'm going to use the console.log statement, console.log, and I'm going to use item dot target. I'll just use target and save this. So we're able to face some kind of errors. What are those errors? So item is not defined in line number 10. Oh yes, line number 10, item is not defined. Okay, we will define that also. So item, and what is this? This is a function. Alright, we just defined an item. Is there any error now? No, we don't have any kind of error. We just defined an item and validate form. So we are passing this item here, and we save this, and it's time to execute in the browser. Item is not defined. Again, refresh. Yes, we are able to see that. So let me enter any kind of data. Yes, we are able to get the data here. Yes, all right, we are able to get the data, and we have to apply the form validation. So what we have to do, so whatever the information we are using here, so we have to get the data. We are getting the input information, but we are not able to get any kind of value. So we have to use console.log item.target.value. Item.target.value. Okay. Let me save this and execute in the browser. Again, I'm going to use information. Now we are able to see the information which we are going to give. Right. Okay. Now we have to do the validations. So what kind of validations we have to apply for this? So the name field should not have any kind of digits. That means numerical values. So what we have to do, if the item, right? So we have to represent a regular expression. We know how to represent the regular expression. So the form should not have any kind of digits in it. So I'm going to use /d. So dot test function. We have to use test function, and what we have to do, item dot target dot value. So we have to test this, and what we have to do, we have to use console.log statement. Console.log, and here what we have to do, so we have to apply the statement. So this is valid when we are going to use, when we are going to get the true condition, true value. So then this is valid name. And similarly, we have to implement the else part also. Let me copy this statement, and I'm going to use else part. Else, and I'm going to use this is invalid. This is invalid. So here we're able to see the error again. So what is that? Value is not defined. So what is that value here? So this is value, right? So we have to use dot symbol. So item.target.value. Let me save this. Oh, all right. So let me execute again. So refresh, and here let me enter hi. So this is valid name, HANUMAN. This is a valid name, right? So I'm going to use 035. So 035, even also it's 035. This is right. So I'm going to use Hanuman and 0. It is also treated this as. So now for better understanding, let me check this in the console first. So we know how to implement the regular expressions, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the where reg equals to, I'm going to use /d. /d, that means the pattern doesn't have any kind of digits in it. I'm going to use console.log statement, and I'm going to pass /d. So reg dot test, and what we have to do, we have to use my name 035 and execute. Now that is also getting true only. Okay. So true, everything is fine. So we just used. We have to use non-digits in it. That's fine. Why we are getting this? This is okay. /d, and we are able to see 035. test dot rez dot test. That's fine. I think it's better to implement the length here. So yes, what is the length? So first of all, we have to get the length of it. So I'm going to print the length of it, because how many characters are there we are not able to observe. So yes, we need to use the console.log statement here. Console.log statement. I'm going to use item dot target dot value dot length. So we have to print this statement. So before going to do that, so I'm going to execute that. I'm going to change the pattern. So non-digit value, right? So how many characters there? How many characters are there here? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, we have absolutely 10 values. And execute. Now that is false. And when we are going to use 5 here, now that is true. So we have to iterate all the values. So what we have to do, we have to find the first the length of the characters. So refresh, and I'm going to enter the values. So yes, this is valid name and this is valid name. We are able to see that information. So here what I'm going to do, I just use the count here. So that is, we know the count here. So item dot target dot value dot length. That's fine. So here I'm going to use item dot target dot value dot length. All right. So execute this. So we will get some kind of error, I think. So we use G. This is a valid name. 5. This is invalid name. Yes, this is invalid. Every time we are going to get invalid only. So here what we are going to do, so here we are using length only, and so we used non-digit value. So everything is fine. So item dot target dot value dot length. We used item dot target dot value dot length. It's everything is fine. So it's better to use a string format. I'm going to use a string format of data for this one, and I'm going to use the concatenate operator as well. And here we have to use again another concatenate operator, and I'm going to use double quotations. Yes, we are getting error again. What is that error? Item dot targeted value. So what is that? So unexpected. So we are getting unexpected. Okay, let me save this. Let me use a variable, that is where item length item item length equals to item dot target dot value dot length. That's fine. So I'm going to use item length here. Item and length. And let me save this and execute. So just refresh this and we have to enter the value. This is valid and I'm going to use 7. This is also valid. So that means we are not able to pass the data to this. Okay, so for better understanding, I'm going to use the variable here. So that is where reg equals to new regexp for implementing the regular expression, because we can implement the string format of data here. So I'm going to use /d and I'm going to use the concatenate operator instead of it. So in the concatenate operator, so what we have to do, we have to pass the parameters like first of all we have to mention the length, the range. So we have to use braces, and very similar to this we have to use item length. All right, so again we have to use the concatenate operator, and in the double quotations we have to pass the closed brace. All right, so for better understanding I would like to display this information first. Control C, and I'm going to use a console.log statement here. Console.log statement, and here I'm going to use this. And refresh and execute in the browser. Let me use, so yes, /d, we are able to see this. This is the regular expression. We are able to see the count. That's absolutely fine. So now it's time to apply the validations by using this. So I'm going to use reg directly here. It's reg dot test. We need not to use this one. So we need not to use this console.log statement. Okay, so let me refresh this again, and I'm going to use a. Now this is also invalid. This is invalid. So we're able to see this is also invalid here. So what is that? So no useless escape. So unnecessary escape character. Unnecessary escape character here. We just used /d. It is backward /d, right? Because we used forward slash along with the string and the forward slash. That is the reason it's not working. So whatever it may be, when we are going to validate this, we have to pass the count of number of characters are available in the input. So we just used regex and everything is fine. /d. and execute. So unnecessary escape character. So yes, we need not to use any kind of characters here. So we are able to find the length of it, and so we are able to store the value also. We are able to get the length of it, and so yes, we going to use the normal procedure, that is traditional procedure for declaring the regular expressions. So /d. So we have to pass the dynamical value here. That is item length. Again, we are able to see the invalid only. Okay, so I'm going to use double quotations again, and we have to use concatenate operator. And here also double quotation, and I'm going to close with this plus symbol, and we just implement it. Refresh, and we're able to see use state is defined but never used. Form input unnecessary escape character. So yes, we need not to use unnecessary escape character. We're able to see unnecessary escape character again. What is that error? So we are able to see that error. Reg the test is not a function. REZ test is not a function. REZ test and item target value. Everything is fine. Item length is. Okay, we will discuss about it. So feedback link, and yes. Sorry for this inconvenience. So sir, I think non-digit up to means the index value specified inside braces. Yes, that is the reason we are passing the dynamic value. Yes. So we will discuss about this. I think tomorrow is holiday, right? So we will discuss about this problem. So it's holiday tomorrow. We will discuss same problem day after tomorrow. All right. So sorry for this inconvenience, and just remind me about this problem. So because we need to pass the dynamical value to the regular expression, that is very, very important. Okay.